lose. Laughs and jokes with the starry-eyed grin. Been a cop, you see, let the stories begin. Hey John, hey, let the stories unfold. From the weird and wild to the tales he's told. Hey John, hey, in your heart we believe. Ride the wave of truth as we live and we breathe. Unseen, cracking jokes like a comedy machine. Some conspiracy in the mix for sure. With John's narration, who could ask for more? Hey John, hey, let the stories unfold. From the weird and wild to the tales he's told. Hey John, hey, in your heart we believe. Ride the wave of truth as we live and we breathe. From the force told with such flair. From chasing bad guys to the big screen glare. Dive into mysteries, laugh till you cry. John's wild ride, always aiming high. Hey John, hey, let the stories unfold. From the weird and wild to the tales he's told. Hey John, hey, in your heart we believe. Ride the wave of truth as we live and we breathe. From the force told with such flair. From chasing bad guys to the big screen glare. Dive into mysteries, laugh till you cry. John's wild ride, always aiming high. Hey John, hey, let the stories unfold. From the weird and wild to the tales he's told. Hey John, hey, in your heart we believe. Ride the wave of truth as we live.
Good evening. Nice to see you all. How are we today? It's been horrible up here. So I'm going to have a little chat tonight about China, because China seems to be doing some things right. Not all cut and dried though. It's not all cut and dried. Everybody hear me okay? Just double checking, you know what live streams are like. Oh. Good evening, Shalini. Hi, Dreadeye. Julie, possibly. China, yeah. Right, so, China's building a new nuclear reactor, which is, in my view, a good thing, because let's face it, they're building a coal-fired power station at the rate of one a week, and I don't really have any big beef about people using coal. But it is quite dirty and it does create things like smog. I mean, that's how we used to get, remember we used to have pea supers and things in Victorian London. So if you can avoid using coal, it's probably a good thing. And I'm not being, I haven't changed into a wetty, but, you know. But nuclear power is definitely the way to go. It's the most sustainable and the least polluting, really, in the long term. Now, so China's building a new nuclear power station, and Bill Gates is looking at one as well. It's very similar, and it's using a new fuel called thorium, and it's not a new fuel; it's an old fuel. But the what would you call it? The thinking around building a thorium nuclear reactor has been going on for quite some time. And China are actually, they've started construction. They started in 2018, which is quite good. So basically, what they do is, right, thorium's a great source of fuel because it's much more prevalent than uranium. For instance, if you built nuclear power stations to power China, and you were using thorium as the fuel, then China would have enough thorium to power itself for the next 20,000 years, right? So there's plenty of thorium about. And it's a lot harder to make it into, well, it's slightly harder to make it into nuclear fuel, but it's a lot harder to make it into a weapon. So what I think, I think it's a good idea, and they use it in the form of a salt. So they put thorium in, I think, fluoride salts, which is a boiling point of around 1400 degrees centigrade. So it's inherently more stable than water to start with, because normal nuclear reactors use pressurized water, and they heat the water to over 100 degrees in order to produce steam, because effectively, and it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter whether it's coal, gas, nuclear. All your powers are burning, like Drax burning wood pellets or anything. All your power stations are still basically steam engines. That's all they are. So you heat water or something else up to make steam. In fact, no, you heat water up to make steam, and that powers the turbines that produce the electricity. So we've really come on a long way since the 1800s, and James Watt, Scotsman, got to give him credit, the inventor of the steam engine. Anyway, moving on. So thorium's quite good because it's a salt, so it's inherently more stable than water, which is a good thing because the thorium acts as both a fuel and a coolant. So in a normal nuclear reactor, a pressurized water reactor, the water is used to cool the reactor, and then it's passed through a heat exchanger where it heats up other water to the point of being steam. So the first set of water is pressurized so it doesn't flash to steam when it cools the reactor, which is great until you get a leak, because if you lose the water, you lose the cooling, and then you get Chernobyl. You get the elephant's foot, or the China syndrome, where the thing just keeps burning through the earth until it gets to China, or in this case, somewhere else, because it's China that's putting it. Anyway, so that's pressurized water reactor. Steam engine using two forms of water, pressurized water and regular water, in order to power the turbines to produce electricity. Now, a thorium salt reactor uses salt. What the hell is salt? A thorium salt reactor uses salt, a molten salt, as both the fuel and the coolant. So it's pumped around a heat exchanger, which will then heat up water to the point where it becomes steam, and then it goes and powers the steam generator that turns the turbine that makes the electricity. So it's the same process. It's just the pressurized water's been replaced by thorium, and the solid fuel, the uranium solid fuel rods, have been replaced by thorium and the salt. So what happens if you get a leak? Well, if you get a leak, all the salt runs out. All the molten salt runs out. But there's no reactor left to be cooled, because the reactor's effectively the thorium salt. So there's no fuel rods left behind that are going to go supercritical and melt down, because the salt's just going to spread out and get to the point where it's that spread out, it's going to stop reacting. So it's kind of a self-regulating safety device. And this has always been my question. Why are we not building these things? If they're inherently safe. So yeah, and to be fair, the Japanese are actually looking at building one of these now because they are inherently safe. And of course, what they do now is they put in an ice plug underneath the thorium salt reactor, and they keep that cold enough that it stops the thorium salt running out. And then they have containment vessels that would spread it out so as it would stop any reaction. So if there's any, if for instance, if let's say there was a tsunami and all the power got cut, well, the ice plug would melt and the salt would just run out into the containment vessels, and that would be it. No drama, no meltdown, no problem. Self-regulating nuclear power. Well, the Chinese are building one. They're building the 2 megawatt version. 2 megawatts isn't very much, but it's a proof of concept. And you know, the Americans have known about this since 1960. They come up with this. Where did they come up with it? Oak Ridge? I think it was maybe Oak Ridge that tested it. So the Americans have known about this since 1960. So why haven't they done anything? Probably because it's easier to use uranium. And when you use uranium, you get a nice byproduct if you want to build nuclear weapons, don't you? Because you get plutonium. You don't get that from thorium because thorium's byproduct is uranium-233, which isn't going to give you plutonium in any stretch of the imagination. So there you go. So yeah, it's still a nuclear reactor. It's still radiation, and there's still some degree of waste, but very, very little. So it's a no-brainer. But China are doing it, and this is part of my point. Why is America not doing these things? Because America's no interest now. America has become it's become a Joe Biden itself, hasn't it? Because it's not the go-getting country it used to be. It's just done. I think it's done. And China's picking up the reins, but China's not perfect because China's suffering from the same problems as most of the West. In fact, most of the world, to be fair, is suffering from the problem that is going to come and bite us all in the ass in about 50 years. And it's not overpopulation, it's population crash. Because everybody is more or less below the 2.1 threshold. And that's why people like, you know, the bad Russian guy have said, come and live in Russia. Because they need people. Everybody needs people. Because if you don't have people, you can't sustain your economy. You can't continue to grow. And you can't keep the elite and the style that they're being accustomed. So anyone thinks there's a depopulation agenda, you're completely wrong. There is no benefit to anyone to depopulating the planet. No benefit at all. And the planet's far from overpopulated the way it stacks up just now. I mean, all you need to do is really go out for a walk. Unless you live in London or Paris or Munich or New York, go out for a walk, or Birmingham, you know. If you don't live in a big city, go out for a walk. And how quickly you're in nature and fairly isolated, to be true, to be fair. Doesn't take long. Even in some of the home counties, go out for a walk and you're in nature quite quickly. So depopulation's a myth. It really is. And it's been a scare story since that book was published way back in the 70s that showed everybody crammed onto an earth that was full of people. Because the population, yes, it's been growing, but when it flips, it's going to crash really quickly and it's not going to be a good thing. But China's in the same boat. It's not hitting the 2.1 population figure because China had this thing about holding back the population, didn't it? Because it didn't want to grow too quick because it thought its population was expanding too quickly and it couldn't sustain it. So they did you remember their famous one-child, policies, which led to complete and utter disasters within China. And we won't go into that because it's quite horrific. And then but they've done away with that now. But now they've got an aging population, much like the rest of us, because Japan in particular is suffering from a really aging population. And the problem becomes that aging people, not Asian, aging people can still work, but what tends to happen is it tends to get more and more expensive because they need more medical treatments, or they then become unproductive, and they start to cost society more. So if you were going to remove anyone from society, it would be the aged, right? So yes, there may have been. I'm not saying there would be anyone that would be cynical enough to take out the aged, but there is no population problem apart from the demographic of it. So we need more young people, and we've not got them. That's the problem, and we're not getting them. And really, that is the biggest problem in the world. It's a way off. It's 50, 100 years away, but population collapse is going to happen. It doesn't matter, Robin. It doesn't matter if you don't have enough people to sustain the population. You're going to have population collapse, and you won't have anyone to run the machinery. And you can use automation as much as you like, but it's just not going to work because you still need people to fix it. You still need people to run it. You can't automate everything. That's the problem. So you end up with people just in such a quandary that you have not enough people and too many of the wrong kind. So that's the difficulty. That is the difficulty, and that's where we end up in a kind of Logan's Run type scenario, isn't it? But we don't want to go down that route either. You don't want to have the mandatory, when you reach 70, you will leap into the volcano. So, but the one that is pushing ahead more than anyone is China, I think. It's got its Belt and Road, it's forging ahead, it's trying to provide, what would you call it, more, it's making more allies than enemies. It's industrializing countries that formerly weren't industrialized, but it's putting its own people in there as well to help. Did you know China's got a satellite station in Argentina, in the middle of nowhere, and nobody's allowed in apart from Chinese personnel? So the new Argentinian government's been wanting to go in and have a look at it, and this is causing a bit of friction because I don't think it's talking to satellites. I think it's a spy station, and it's in Argentina, so that's quite interesting. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. But yeah, Argentina's Belt and Road is all over the place, and it's getting further and further out, and affecting more and more countries. So I think China is the new world power, and it's got to the point that some of their weaponry and missiles and things are probably getting to the point where they're beating some of the US stuff. And I think we've always looked at America as having the best of everything. You know, the cream of the crop. They are the guys with the best weapons. They've got the best missiles. They've got the best people. You know, Americans can do everything. But Ukraine's shown us a few lessons there, hasn't it? That maybe the West isn't as good as it thinks it is. And that then becomes a problem if you start trying to get to the point where you end up in some kind of conflict with a big country like Russia or China. And I've said this, and I'll keep saying this, the other problem with America is they've never fought a peer group war since 1945. And things have changed quite a lot since 1945 because America wasn't a particularly big or effective or well equipped army at that point. They were just able to throw loads of resource into it. But now the other countries have caught up, and while we've gone down some kind of woke route that really, when you see some of this stuff on, social media, you think, how can these people actually live like this? You hear them talking about being polyamorous and their wife's new boyfriend and stuff, and you're thinking, what the hell? What kind of life are these people living? It does sound a bit debauched, a bit like the 1930s Germany, the 1930s Berlin. So yeah, interesting. I think we all have to keep our eye on China and see where it's going, because Xi is he's not an unintelligent man, and he's playing a really good close game, and he's well capable of playing the long game. In fact, some would say that is his game, the long game, especially if you know his background, because he came from quite a troubled background and had quite a few run-ins with the Communist Party. Not directly, but his family, certainly. In fact, I might do a video on that. But yeah, I think China's playing the long game, and they're here to stay, and they are becoming the premier power in the world, I would say. Especially since Russia has its own issues at the moment. But I don't think China's going to let them down, I think they will continue to band together in the form of BRICS and continue to surge forward. So the question is, do you learn Russian or do you learn Chinese? That's the question. I don't think we'll see that, Robin. I really don't. That's like saying Wakanda. Ah, well, well, well. I was watching Nerdrotic today. He didn't like Alien Romulus either. And then I was watching his live show. I should be on that live show. I would fit in perfectly. I really would. I think you guys should start a petition to drive me towards it. Anyway, what else? Is there anything else? Well, I tell you what we'll talk about on Friday. We'll talk about the strange goings on around water spouts and luxury yachts. Because there's more to that than meets the eye, I think. Tomorrow night, we have a doozy. I've got a theory. I've got a new theory. And I'm going to explain it to Ed and you guys and see what you think. And it explains a lot of different things, from UFOs to Atlantis, maybe. Yeah. So, yeah, I've got a new theory that might cover quite a lot of ground. So we'll go through that in some detail tomorrow night. That should be quite interesting. So yeah. But I think the basic idea that we started off with of a thorium nuclear reactor has definitely got the ability of powering the world in a much more sustainable and more what you would say reliable manner than just relying on renewables, because the problem with renewables is they run out. And you might think, well, yeah, I mean, the lifespan of a wind turbine is less than 20 years. So it's not a renewable if you have to keep building new wind turbines, is it? The lifespan of a solar panel isn't great. I mean, solar panels are pretty poor to start with. Their average efficiency is something like 33%, 34%. which isn't great. And when solar panels were invented way back in the 1800s, 1890 or something, the first solar panel, the average efficiency then was 22%. So they've not really picked up that much. But, a 34% efficiency rating for something that degrades every year. So solar panels, they might look good on paper, but and then everything they're made from is like toxic and completely unbiodegradable. So what do you do with your solar panels when they're not working? Good question. And if we do end up in a wetter world, then you're going to have less sun. So, I mean, look, the last 2 days here, it's been dark all day. It's like winter has come. Is it in to do with the massive volcanic eruptions? Oh, that's the thing. So, there you go. There you go. Interesting times we live in, indeed. I did see that I was wrong. It wasn't a guy living in an American basement, although the website is registered there. The Channel 3 News, channel3news.com. No, channel3news.now was the website. So apparently it's a Pakistan gentleman has been arrested in Pakistan for what would you call it? Fomenting unrest in the UK. Interesting times indeed. Anything else we want to talk about briefly? Personal trainer with £900,000 worth of cocaine chased round Glasgow gets a prison sentence of 5 years. Wow. 5 years for nearly £1 million worth of cocaine, drug dealer. Involves the police in a high-speed chase and writes off a police car by ramming it and gets 5 years. Don't go shouting at police now or pushing them. You could end up in the same boat. Yeah. There's a lot wrong in the UK at the moment. There really is. And what do you think about America? Do you think Trump's going to lose? I'm not convinced he's going to win now. I'm not convinced he's going to win. And that sounds good. I've been fasting for 3 days, Julie. I haven't had anything to eat, but I've lost half a stone so far. I haven't eaten since Sunday, so we'll see how that goes. I really need to lose weight. So half a stone's not too bad. A lot of it will be water, of course. Initially. And then if we could pick up, 1 or 2 pounds, well, £1 a day is doable. If you're on keto or carnivore. So I will almost certainly stick to keto or carnivore. Right. I think that might do us for the moment. It's just a short one, just to keep in touch, keep you up to date with what's happening in the world. Oh, Bill Gates is he's looking at building a molten salt reactor as well, so he's jumped on that bandwagon. But he's going one further. He's building it in Wyoming, and he's going to use a molten salt as a storage mechanism as well. The idea being that he will pump the hot molten salt into storage vessels where they can then reuse it. So he'll have the radioactive side of it heating up more salt as opposed to turning it straight to steam. They'll still do the steam thing as well, but it becomes less efficient though when you do that, because a regular nuclear power station is something like 96% efficient. Now, Bill Gates' one would probably be down in the 40s or something, which isn't great. That's about the same efficiency as gas. The thorium one will probably be in the high 80s, so, the Chinese one. So, be interesting to find out exactly where it is, because no one's built one really yet. I think they built one in Stanford, but it was tiny. It'd be interesting. I'm quite looking forward to seeing what the results of that one are. Be quite interesting. I know that sounds quite sad, but hey, you've got something to occupy yourself, don't you? Right. Is that us? Anything else, people? No? Okay. Well, if that's it, then remember, like, share, subscribe. And you know what? It's been great for you.
You can see the writing on the pavement. Young kids, they're growing up in basements. Online, a whole new generation. I'ma make mine, so you better go take it. Always, they need a new replacement. Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the older generation. Too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah.